Funny seeing you there. Look at this. It's Tutor Ramble vlog style. Rich and I were about to meet Pierce Brown. I feel really weird talking into a camera like this. I feel like Logan Paul, 2016 Japan, get me canceled. Let's go. Wow. Richard, you excited for Pierce Brown?
Yeah. I don't know what reaction to get.
Are you excited now, Rich?
Less so that I have to spend money on a salad.
Are you feeling it now, Mr. Krabs?
I'm feeling okay.
He's had his food. He's feeling better. Let's go.
I'm feeling a little better. Phrase is pretty nice.
Remember, Rich said he was excited. How you feeling?
I am excited. I just have low energy. I'm just a low energy type of guy. I don't like explode on camera. Like, oh my god, I'm so excited.
That's a personal attack. Let's go. Park's on our way there. How do you feel now, Mr. Krabs?
I feel a little bit better.
Okay, good. Good.
Food in my stomach. I can be more excited.
Hell yeah. Oh, we should probably block off that license plate. All right, let's go. There we go. Wow, it's packed. Wow. Holy crap, how are we even get space? How packed this is, how you feel?
A little hot. This is a lot of people in a tight room.
I'm
very warm.
I'm very uncomfortable.
So I don't think I need to encourage you to give him a warm welcome, but please join me in welcoming Pierce Brown. They told me it was air conditioning, but there's so many bodies in here. I thought this place was filled to capacity last time I was here, so thank you guys for coming out. This is crazy. So I got this thing I've been doing at the beginning of every one of these. And it started with New York, and I pitted New York and Boston in a rivalry. And I said New York did a great job at what I'm about to ask you to do. Boston took it personally and did a great job. And then we went to Atlanta. And I was in a church. And shit escalated. So what I'm going to ask you to do is, I'm going to ask you to howl. But here's the thing. I know there's something inside you that thinks it's dorky. It's okay. This guy's wearing a wolf cut. And I'm pretty sure you take all our asses, so if it's dorky, you see someone holding back, you find him, all right? All right, so on a count of three, well, actually, never mind. On a count of three, I want you guys to give a crazy ass howl. Because these books mean a lot to me, and I thought no one would read them. And I couldn't have been happier to be wrong. So please, on 1, 2, 3. This book is extremely personal to me because it was the first time I ran into an obstacle I could not move with sheer force. I used to blitz the books and just write them like crazy, and it just worked. And then COVID happened, I thought, goody, great, I can spend more time alone. And then I got like crazy depressed, couldn't write. Then I wrote 400 pages, just forced it out, and it sucked. And so I threw it away. And then restarted the book. And Darrow's journey in this book is really personal because he had to figure out how to go forward by taking a step back. So I hope it means something to y'all, but I have 700 pages of book for y'all to read, so why do you want to hear me speak? So let's get to the Q&A right off the bat. Yeah? Who's got a question? This brave gentleman.
Pierce,
Yo.
What is the most ridiculous costume somebody has worn to one of your events?
Oh. Someone came as Roke, but like after he died. But I'm talking like 3 years after. Hats off, right? Another one was an AV, and it was anatomically correct. All right, who else?
This guy back here.
We got this one, then we got the guy. We got the sling blade, yeah.
Okay. This one's two-parter for Orion. I heard this one theory that Orion was assigned male at birth and transitioned. Is that any truth to that?
Oh, so a tricky one right off the bat. Cool. It's not something I intended to write. I'm open for interpretation. I mean, that's the thing that about these books, is that I write them and then it's up for your brain to interpret. And I feel as though if I retcon it, that's bullshit. And then if I also demand that it's one way, that's also kind of bullshit. It wasn't something I intended, but I also think it's something that could totally happen in the Red Rising world. And so I think it's a fair, I've looked at the sections they're talking about, and it could be perceived that way. It wasn't the initial intention, but also the Red Rising world has tons of variation in it, and not the same preconceptions our world does. So politically I'm open to it, but it wasn't, intended initially in the text. So your second question. Is it another tricky one?
About Orion.
Yeah. Oh, we like Orion.
When she was running the Storm Gods,
yeah.
The other Blues, did she kill them on purpose to take over, or were they killed?
No, they couldn't handle the load. So basically it takes a cognitive load, and they basically died off one by one trying to shield her from, taking the full brunt of it. And then she was able to, in her vet, helmet for a period of time, but one person couldn't do it. So they were simply weaker. And then also gave their lives to protect her. A great question. Orion's your favorite?
No, it's just last we read, she was the biggest question of the questions. So.
Fair enough. Very cool. Love it. I fundamentally do not think it is my job as a fiction writer to comment on our current time. I know some that do. That's fine. That's their jam. My jam is trying to find and investigate things that I think have always been true. Things that are kind of fundamental to human nature. And when I talk about human nature, we're talking about psychology, sure, but then also in macro, which is civilizations. It's just humans getting along. So how do humans get along? What happens when demagogues pop up? I mean, I wrote the Day of Red Doves and then the Capitol riots happened. And that wasn't me predicting the Capitol riots by any stretch of the imagination. It was instead me saying this happens when demagogues come around. But I was already exploring that because it's a theme that's really interesting to me in Roman history. And so I was following Roman history, and so are we. I mean, look at a lot of the iconography that as Americans we subscribe to. And so I just see a lot of parallels in history. So I think it's more interesting to find the things that have always been true, and say, science fiction is basically like, this is human nature, and you add one or two things, and how does that change human nature, or how does human nature stay the same? So I think that's more interesting, more fun. If I let you know my political opinion, I think I've screwed up. Because, I'm trying to figure it out like everyone else, and I have my opinions, but we all grew up in different ways. So I feel as though if I preach my opinions, then you'll argue with how I grew up, or what I am, or who I am, as opposed to us just looking at a world that does not exist, that we both have agreed to enter, and look at things in perspective in that world, and see what the essential truths are. And that's way more fun for me to write. Thank you for the question, though. So we're gonna go this side. Oh, I got to.
All right. I just want to say that the Ephraim redemption arc is maybe some of my favorite work in all of the fiction I've read. Right. And I know you mentioned about falling into a slight depression, or not slight, sorry.
Yeah, no.
But depression, right?
Sure.
Did your experience?
Someone's learned.
Yeah. Did your experience with depression inform his redemption arc at all? I mean, he stood at the edge of a rail about to jump before the...
Yeah, a bit. I've never had that side, suicidal ideology.
Sorry, I wasn't asking that.
No, it's fine. I'm a very open book. I've never gone to that exact depth, but I think we all deal with depression in our own way. I think a lot of it has to do with the branding that makes us feel like we're weird if we're not happy. And happiness is ephemeral. It's the wrong thing to chase. The right thing to chase is purpose. Purpose can continue through hardship. Happiness cannot. And so what I was trying to find is characters finding their purpose in these books. And I think I've been raised as like a sheep, to chase happiness, right? Because you look at a billboard and you say, oh, if I have that thing, I'll be happy. I'll project, And so it was kind of my way of breaking me figuring it out myself. And then Lightbringer is the culmination of that. But the Ephraim arc, man, that was like one of the things I wrote without much editing. I was straight through. I figured out that so fast because it was just such a natural character to write, and he felt so fun to write. And he was just, I miss him on the page. I really did. I really did. Glad to connect with him. I was just wondering what Cavex Telemachus would tell his kids to read. I think he would have them read in this order, starting at age 4. Man's Search for Meaning, War and Peace, and then See Spot Run. He Because we start with the wrong books at the wrong time. Then you keep reading it throughout life and you figured everything out. So love that question. So basically, 4 words that resonated with her are let fall the rain, and did I shop around any other words or phrases for that moment? No. Because when you stumble on the X Factor, the right thing, you're like, yeah. I think I might have a lot of flaws as an author that I'm working on, but I think one thing I do is string a couple words together right. And you have to recognize when it is. And let fall the rain, I saw that and I was like, whoo-hoo! Because it's so declarative and cool, Yeah, follow up. Yeah. I was having fun along with y'all. Like the whole thing is when you write characters that have not met each other, or read characters not met each other, and especially in multiple POV books. Like in Iron Gold, I learned how to use multiple POVs, and I started realizing not every character needs the same amount of time, and doesn't need to be interspersed equally between the parts. So you don't have to be egalitarian in who you give attention to. And so for Dark Age, that was kind of my protest against the behavior I did in Iron Gold. And I'm like, all right, I'm just going to show you the meat. And so I wanted to do this bop, 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 it hitting. And then Darren just being like, Tuesday. So that was the plan. And I like, when I first saw people afterwards, and then that was their favorite quote from that section of the book, I was like, me too. But really it is, I really enjoy pacing in books, and my favorite things to read, just for me, is like different versions of the Iliad or the Odyssey. Because I like seeing how different translators translate the text while retaining the iambic hexameter. And so it's a very musical book. And so I think whenever you see Darrow getting angry, you see that bop, 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 long sentence, bop, 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 and then it's just anger. Like that, if you look at the motherfucking consequence line, it's the same thing. Like he starts talking in a very strange way in his head, and it kind of stacks on the page like that. And it might be silly, but I love it. And so it's kind of my way of, channeling the love I have for the Iliad and the Odyssey into that. Yeah, great question.
What's your favorite aspects of these stories, though? Battles, politics, or the friends and family relationship?
Friends and family relationship, I think. They're also the hardest to do. I'd say it's the growth in the characters with their relationships and how they can be so many different things to each other at different times. But more so, I love seeing through different perspectives. And I'm not just talking about the first person perspective. I'm talking about when you can see, it is great, and that's one of the things I love about that Lysander chapter, is seeing Darrow through Lysander's eyes, and seeing Darrow has all this self-doubt, but he still does one thing great, and seeing Lysander entirely humbled in front of him was a really fun moment. So the interplay between the characters is something that really excites me, and a lot of times I'll be in a scene, I'll just it won't be working, and then I'll finally kind of hit the tone, and it'll be like, oh, of course, this guy killed this guy's mom, and I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot about that. But it was 8 years ago. Is he still angry? Well, let's talk about his psyche. Has he done any work? Does he have a therapist? He's been in prison. Okay, he's a prison and a therapist. So we're just kind of unpacking it all, and I love getting to the answer to that, because sometimes you just find out that it works. When I was trying to figure out the character, a character to bring into Iron Gold and Dark Age, who was two characters I really liked that are kind of foils for Darrow are Apollonius. Y'all are weirdos. But Apollonius is so fun because it's just, I forgot I knew some words until I write Apollonius. And I'm in that highfalutin language, and I'm like, this is fun, And so my editor even has to rein me back, And but I found Apollonius, seeing Darrow perceive Apollonius is so funny to me. Because no one else gets Apollonius, and Darrow's just like, you don't know how to humor him, I do. And it's just great. And then seeing Lysander knowing how to humor him even better is really fun. And so anyway, the characters are the most important part for me. In the new series, the first series, Darrow and Severo are very much in lockstep. In the second series, they are both struggling with the same question, which is, am I a father first or a general first? Is that accurate? Okay. So I wouldn't say there was any inspiration for that. It just seemed like the natural question because both of them I structured to have dads who died for a cause. And I wanted it to affect them in different ways. And see through what they found on the other side of that. So they were both became terrorists, for lack of a better word, freedom fighters, took up their father's cause whether they wanted to or not. Darrow reluctantly, several reluctantly in many ways. But what I wanted them to do was both have something to lose. And so when they had something to lose, how would they behave? And I thought Severo would cling very tightly and not want to lose, and I thought Darrow would go to martyrdom mode. And that's something that was, once I realized that fundamental impasse between them, that the conflict became very natural to write. So it wasn't inspired by anything, it was just simply, it seemed like the natural evolution of their friendship. When you look for commonalities and you look for how different personalities encounter or how different personalities react to them, basically. So, you know, it's each thing's like a little math problem, kind of. And you're like, how does this new variable spit something new out? So, great question.
You do such a good job of differentiating like the myth versus the person, Reaper versus Darrow. So on my last reread, you know, Persephone and Io was this figure for the Rising, but when I last reread it, having read Dark Age, I was like, oh, I kind of feel like Io lines up more with like Red Hand, Harmony, like Red Anger versus Rising. So I was kind of just thinking like, if she had not been hanged, do you see her falling in line with Darrow or going more her own way with Red Hand and Harmony?
I've never been asked that question. I love that question, particularly the way you set it up. I don't know, and that's the whole point, and that's what I think the tragedy of Io is because I got the idea of Io sacrificing herself from Antigone. And in Antigone, a 2,500-year-old play, a girl has two brothers on either side of a civil war. One of the brother on the losing side, both die, but the brother on the losing side isn't allowed to be buried by the winning side, the tyrant Creon of Thebes. And she's told not to bury her brother. If she doesn't bury her brother, it violates, you know, funeral rites, and he doesn't go to the afterlife. So he's stuck in limbo, I think. So she chooses to bury him, even though she's engaged to the tyrant's son in that, and she chooses to bury him and die. But if you really look at the play, it's very like kind of a romantic setup. But if you look at the play, she's snarky, she's prideful, she's arrogant, and that's what I wanted to channel with Io. I wanted her to be arrogant, and also think that at 16, this is the best use of her life. And I wanted it to be something that is criticized by different people throughout. You look at Diana, Darrow's mom, said she didn't like Io. You know, other people commented Io along the way. Darrow at different times, based on the revelations he learns about certain things about her death, changes his opinion. And I think his opinion is different about her in each book. So what I think Darrow at this point would say is she robbed herself for the chance of being more. But by robbing herself of a chance of being more, she also gave so much more to everyone else. So it really is a catch-22 in many ways, or a double-edged sword probably is a better allegory. But I think that if she continued when she was 16, she would have been Red Hand, sure. But I don't think that she would have if she continued past 16 for very long. I think there was an innate goodness in Io. I think that the anger, the pride came out of a place of desperation. So Harmony had choices. She saw things, but she could never get over the fact that Ares was a gold. I think Io could have. So I think that in the end, she wouldn't have been Red Hand. But great question. We're going to go right there, and then we're going to go to this corner.
Me?
Yes.
So apart from Darrow, you know, we've talked a little about characters that you enjoy writing. Who do you have the most difficulty writing, and what is it about their story or, you know, their involvement in the larger plot that kind of keeps you pushing through that?
So who's the most difficult character to write? And what is it about their story that helps push me through the larger plot?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Virginia is the hardest. Because she's supposed to be the smartest person in the solar system, which, by the metrics in this, is way smarter than me. So, but how can I write it in a way that's palatable? Because she also wouldn't be like purple in her writing. And if you look at her chapters, they're the least purple. Like she's not very emotional. Purple meaning like flagrantly, like that's just doing it while doing it. Flagrantly florid. That's purple writing. And so. She's really tough because in order to make her chapters interesting, she has to be, they have to have filled with tension. Yet at the same time, like if we were being really realistic, she would be in a bunker 40 miles beneath the surface of Mars, dictating affairs and would never be in danger, ideally. right? So how can she be put in situations which are tense or interesting that provide action or interaction with the villains or with her own friends, without being stupid, without making consistent mistakes, or because then I'm just saying she's smart and then showing she's dumb, and I'm dumb, she's smart. So it takes me a lot of times rewriting her to get her in the right place. But at the same time, I also want, when she does make mistakes, it may be because of her natural gifts. So she might trust someone too much, and they make a mistake. I mean, she's operating with millions of people under her, but it's really trying to find a position for her to be not perfect or imperfect, right? And a lot of that is done in rewrites and in second drafts. So with Virginia, I usually write a stupid draft. Or actually, I literally titled it when I said it to my editor, the Dum Dum Draft. And then, oh God, I'm so silly. Yeah. Then we have the Smart Draft, and then the Smart Draft. And hopefully the Smart Draft seems smart. Because Virginia is also, while she's really tough, she's this source of Minerva-style energy, this real warmth and this real home for a lot of the characters. And not just Darrow. And there's this particular scene she has with a howler in this one that really moved me a lot. And just recognizing she can see what others need, and she'll actually give it to them if it helps them and it's within her moral code. And that's something that really warms me to her, because no other character in this series really does that, except for maybe Lily.
Here we go.
Yeah, now that we kind of
Hi.
Oh my God.
Hey, how's it feel getting a signed copy of your favorite author's book?
Golden Sun's my favorite book ever. He signed that, he signed Lightbringer. I'm not even gonna lie, I said this to Rich. I felt so nervous getting next to him. You can see from the camera, it gets a little shaky. I was going, I even forgot to shake his hand. I was next to a god amongst men.
I got to shake his hand.
A god amongst men.
Didn't.
That guy was, I mean, he's charming. He's like, his speech is Q&A, great questions and answers. He was very personable. I walked up to him, he looked me in the eye. Richard doesn't look me in the eye ever. It was just what? Why are you giving me
To
that
be
look?
fair, like you look into his eyes and like
Alright,
the
let's-
bottomless abyss.
Okay, Pierce, if we ever get to interview or anything, oh my God, it would be my dream. You'll get an assigned copy.
Bitch.